The royals do give covert messages via apparel, and I think that there is little doubt in anybody's mind who has a mind that Harry and Meghan have been well and truly rumbled.
Oh, she always knows how to play it just right, doesn't she? When I saw this footage today of Catherine, the Princess of Wales, arriving at RAF Coningsby to visit the station for the first time since becoming a Royal Honorary Air Commodore of the base in 2023, I thought that choice of outfit is not coincidental. Just days after Prince Harry accused the men in grey suits, there is Catherine out and about in a very fetching grey suit. Lady Colin Campbell, coincidence? I say not.
Well, Dan, you know the royals do give covert messages via apparel, and I think that there is little doubt in anybody's mind who has a mind that Harry and Meghan have been well and truly rumbled. And what I find entertaining about the whole thing of the accusation of the men in grey suits is that the men in grey suits have actually done absolutely nothing, except expose the fact that Meghan and Harry have been playing the system, and that they came in, and I think it is they, although he's the one who had the meeting with his father. I think they came in with a plan, which was that they were going to spin it so that they could be half in, half out. And when that didn't work, and there was a backlash, and the palace finally has been sensible enough to draw a line under the whole nonsense by saying, no, that's not what happened. And Harry and Meghan, rarely they said Harry, but they mean Harry and Meghan, are never going to be half in and half out. What does Meghan do? She spins around and blames the men in grey suits, and not only to all of us, but to Harry as well. And Harry's dumb enough to go along with it. And I actually wouldn't be surprised that Harry half believes that it is the men in grey suits. And this is also Meghan's very clever way of making sure that no matter what happens, she is going to sabotage any possibility of Harry ever having anything approaching a reconciliation with his family. What do you think?
Big news. Outspoken is now available as a podcast too. So please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may. Well, I totally agree. And when it comes down to it, Lady C, one thing that has frustrated me so much in the coverage, because I think the people who are in the royal rota, they don't really look at what's been going on in Hollywood and in America, because their eyes are so focused here. But of course, it was Meghan Markle and Prince Harry who first leaked the details of what went on in the meeting with King Charles to Us Weekly magazine, where they painted this picture, Lady C, of some type of like Hollywood reunion with Harry sobbing and Charles rushing up to his son. And so actually, all the Sun's reporting did was balance a falsehood that had already been put out there by the Sussexes anyway, which was, no, this was a cold meeting. It was a formal meeting. As you had already reported, Lady C, it was a very short meeting, shorter than any of Charles's other official engagements that day. So it was a rebalancing. And look, I think what Catherine is trying to say today is you can blame the men in grey suits all you want, but actually this royal in a grey suit knows a thing or two about the truth, and the truth matters. Harry and Meghan, you leaked a whole load of baloney about that meeting, and you didn't like it when your lies were called out. So that's my view.
Well, I also think, Dan, that where Harry gets it wrong time and again, which to me is astonishing because he is, after all, a member of the royal family, he knows that the men in grey suits implement the wishes of their
Of
principals.
course.
So when when Harry is saying, "Oh, it was Sir Edward Young who had the Queen wrapped around his little finger, and but for Sir Edward Young, we'd have been half in and half out, and he sabotaged everything, and Clive Alderton has also been helping to sabotage everything." I mean, it's rubbish, and he knows it's rubbish. He has to know. Well, let me put it this way: he would have known it was rubbish had he not been so drug-addled by his own account. Because the only explanation for why he doesn't know is what he actually was brought up to perceive and knows about, is that his mind has been blown, partly through drugs and partly through Meghan Iago dropping poison in his air. And I mean, if Catherine is giving a message, the message is the men in grey suits are implementing our desires, and they are supporting the monarchy. And we are all as one where this is concerned. There is no halfway house for Harry and Meghan. They've been pushing for it from the very beginning. And let's remember also, Dan, that Harry and Meghan tried to bounce the royal family into agreeing to half in, half out when there was resistance that there would be no half in, half out. They are the ones who made the announcement that they were going to California, that they were going to leave the country. They didn't admit California. And they made the announcement, and they said that they would be spending, they were coming up with a new way of being royal, and they were going to be half in, half out. That was the message without actually stating it. And how they actually affirmed that they were going to be half in and half out was by stating that they would be doing royal duties some of the time, and they would be honoring the Queen and the royal system for part of the time, and the rest of the time they would be making money. Because remember, they also said this was about financial independence. So they from the very outset have tried to blackmail and bounce the royal family into agreeing half in, half out. And this recent foray with, Harry spends 25 minutes having a cup of tea and a slice of cake with his father, having been kept waiting and having had to go in through the back door, so to speak. And he then immediately starts to bleat to The Guardian, which he knows is an anti-monarchist newspaper. I mean, how disloyal is that? And on the back of that, Meghan is coming up with this farcical scenario that Harry and his father had a hyper-emotional meeting. Well, I mean, anybody who knows anything about the British upper classes, and indeed pretty much the upper classes anywhere in the world, will know that the upper classes are very restrained emotionally. They don't even bleat at funerals. And the idea that Harry collapsed is very credible because, I mean, he's so... Yeah, bring me some more weed. Ayahuasca. I mean, he's so drug-addled that and one of the effects of drug addlement is that you lose control of your emotions. So I quite believe that Harry was collapsing, as he said, but the idea that Charles was there on the floor with him, and Harry, let's have a scene, and maybe Meghan can direct it, and she'll get an Oscar as a director and a producer, and maybe she should come in and be a part of this show as well. I mean, all absolute insanity and rubbish. And if I couldn't agree with the palace more for having knocked it on the head.
Indeed. And by the way, Lady C, you know I'm not a conspiracist. You know I'm not a conspiracist. But look at this from the Salty Duchess, this post. You have to chuckle at all the senior royals who have all chosen to wear grey suits over the past week. Well played. Because it's not just Catherine, because it was also William, who wore a very fetching grey suit earlier in the week, and King Charles as well for one of his diplomatic meetings. So look, I'm just putting it out there. I think this is a message being sent, Lady C. I really do. And I think a lot of the false reporting around this has missed the point that it was Harry and Meghan that leaked about the meeting in the first place. But look, there was another disgusting thing that happened yesterday, Lady C. And again, we know this is all planned. Prince Harry constantly trying to find ways to either undermine or overshadow his brother. And it was a very important day for William at the launch of the humanitarian memorial. Watch this.
Around the world, far too many people continue to face unimaginable pain, suffering and loss, whether through natural disasters or man-made conflict and famine. We are witnesses to the appalling suffering of those who are victims of war and violence, from Ukraine to Sudan, from Myanmar to Haiti, and indeed throughout much of the Middle East. Yet the presence of humanitarian aid workers, like those in Gaza, runs like a thread of shared humanity through even the grimmest of environments. Rather than running away from danger, discomfort and hunger, these incredibly brave men and women stay behind to bring whatever respite, compassion and care they can to those who need it the most. We must champion and fight for their access to people in the most desperate of circumstances. Yet too often, hundreds of humanitarian aid workers around the world are killed while on duty. Last year, the number was 385. This year, it has already reached almost 300. Every single one of those deaths is a tragedy, a cruel affront to the international humanitarian principles which must remain sacrosanct. The brave humanitarians that seek to feed and heal innocent people deserve our respect and deserve their safety.
And of course, that should have been the headline, but it wasn't, because Prince Harry, for the second time, has decided to drag not just William, but also Catherine, the Princess of Wales, into his increasingly, I think, deranged legal fight with the Daily Mail. As according to Taz put it, what an absolute shithead. He's done this against Catherine and Prince William's wishes to give his case more justification. They moved past all of this years ago and even benefited from their payout. Maria Montessori wrote this smacks of desperation as it has nothing to do with his own case. What a fool. And Tori Bakahi said unemployed Harry continues to conduct vengeful UK privacy litigation from his sofa in the USA. Now he's dragging his estranged family members into his BS. Will the tabloid prince tell the court how he lied about their private lives for easy cash? And of course, he will not do that. And Lady C, I do want to get into the details of what was alleged in this court case yesterday. I'm not for 1 second, by the way, excusing at all that the conduct of the Mail and the newspapers. I should make that absolutely clear. But the point is, why is Harry at the very last minute, to the fury of the judge, deciding to drag William and Catherine into this, who want nothing to do with it, Lady C? But first, you know I never recommend anything unless I truly believe in it. And today I've got something absolutely game-changing for you. Have you ever stopped to think about how crucial comfort is, especially down there? Well, let me tell you, today's Outspoken is proudly sponsored by Sheath Underwear, the revolutionary brand shaking up men's comfort across the globe. And here's what makes it even better. Sheath was founded by a brilliant US Army veteran, Robert Patton, while he was serving in Iraq back in 2007. So that's right, this isn't just an underwear brand. It was designed for the toughest conditions imaginable. Patton was battling relentless heat and discomfort in full combat gear, and he thought there has to be a better way. And there is, because he created it. Let's be honest, traditional underwear just doesn't cut it anymore. Sheath's innovative dual pouch design ensures your comfort all day long, keeping things separate, cool, and fresh. Imagine your essentials being comfortably cradled away from unwanted friction and heat. Trust me, it is a genuinely transformative product. I have tested it at the gym, on long days at work, and I'm telling you, once you've experienced Sheath, there simply is no turning back. They're stylish, they're supported, and they deliver unmatched comfort. It's like upgrading from economy to first class, but for your underwear. So right now, I am offering you a 20% discount. It is exclusive at sheath.com. So 20% off your entire order. All you have to do is use my special promo code Outspoken at checkout. Sheath is the perfect present, by the way, if you're looking for something for your husband, your son, your brother, or hard to buy for mates. But if you are a lady and you end up on the website, you will see there are female versions available too. This is really cool as well. Sheath, did you know, was the first official underwear of the UFC. So you can go to sheath.com or just click on the link below, enter Outspoken on checkout, and then you can thank me later when you're feeling comfortable, confident, and ready to tackle anything your day throws at you. Sheath underwear, redefining comfort one pair at a time. But now, back to the show.
Harry will do anything to sabotage William and Catherine, and he will use William and Catherine at every turn to boost himself and his interests. But it's not only Harry, it's also David Sherborne. David Sherborne is, I'm sure you know, Dan, but the public might not know, he is the most senior junior barrister in the country. He's never going to take silk because he's so unpopular and despised in certain quarters in the legal profession.
A very good reason, may I just say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Here he is with Harry, by the way, because a lot of people will recognise him, Lady C, because he's sort of trying to become a faux celebrity, isn't he?
Well, he is a celebrity. Not even, I wouldn't even say he's a faux celebrity. I'd say maybe he's a pseudo celebrity. Slight difference.
Yes.
Sorry for being pedantic.
No, fair point.
You know, he's because he's not really a fake celebrity. So, because he is in his own right a celebrated lawyer. Well, I mean, he is, well, let me put it this way. He is a brilliant, brilliant barrister, as Colleen Rooney will be able to attest to. And I mean, you know, he's savage. He is in the finest tradition of the George Carmans of this world, who I'm sure you know who George Carman is, but to the public, they might not know. George Carman was the most savage barrister and made a vast fortune as a result of it. But George Carman actually believed in conducting himself in a way that he regarded as ethical. And I have to say, I regarded as ethical because I was actually a client of George Carman's. He represented me against Associated Newspapers.
Which is the Mail, which is the Daily Mail.
Yeah. And I mean, the Mail did behave pretty badly in terms of the complaints that have already been settled. All of this was settled years ago. Harry is opportunistically, and David Sherborne is opportunistically raising issues that have been put to bed years ago. They've paid out massive damages for, they have apologized for, they have said they have moved on and won't do it again. Why is Harry bringing this up decades later? And the reason why is because it will embarrass William, it will embarrass Catherine, it will jeopardize, they hope, their relationship with Associated Newspapers, and their being the Wales's relationship with Associated Newspapers. And it's an inducement to coerce and put pressure on associated newspapers to actually jump ship and be more pro Harry and Meghan and more anti William and Catherine. And indeed, we have been seeing evidence of that because remember, Charlotte Griffiths couldn't be more pro Meghan and Harry if she tried, unless she became amid scabies. And so you have all of this infighting going on. And I think that they are using, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist either, Dan, but I know from bitter experience how these lawyers and these newspapers function.
Yes. And Lady C, remember... Oh, sorry, you finish your point.
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, remember, there's still, and I believe there's much more that's going to emerge in court, hopefully, about Prince Harry's links to the Byline Times as well. The organisation which launched a campaign of lies and falsehoods against me to try and cancel me. And that is something which has to be unpicked.
Not only cancel you, they tried to get you put into prison. You would have been put into prison for a good 10 or 15 years if they'd succeeded.
For total lies.
It was absolutely abominable and appalling and totally unjustified. And there is no doubt in my mind that Harry and Meghan were behind this as well, with the full support of David Sherborne, because all of them are in bed together. I think it's absolutely outrageous that the law can be misused to the extent that they often misuse it.
Yes, and the claim, Lady C, is that Harry's legal team were planting stories with Byline Times in order to manipulate the court case. And we know that there were reporters for the Byline Times literally in court with Prince Harry, so I believe that to be true. But look, let me take you through this reporting from the Daily Telegraph, Lady C, which reports Prince Harry drags William into battle against Daily Mail. And their Victoria Ward, their deputy royal editor, reports the Duke of Sussex has dragged his brother, the Prince of Wales, into his legal battle against the Daily Mail's publisher. Lawyers for high-profile figures, including the Duke, have alleged that private investigators were paid to spy on the Prince and Princess of Wales. The move risks deepening the rift between the brothers and comes weeks after the Duke reunited with the King for the first time in 19 months over tea at Clarence House. The Duke is one of 7 claimants suing associated newspapers for alleged privacy breaches dating back 30 years in some cases. Now, in written submissions to the High Court, lawyers for the group claim that payments were made to private investigators for information about William and Catherine. One in 2003 was allegedly for information about Prince William's out of Africa-themed 21st birthday party. Another invoice refers to mobile phone data belonging to Catherine. There is also information about 2 occupancy searches relating to the Middleton's family address and 10 phone numbers from a family and friends list in which the princess's mobile number was highlighted. David Sherborne for the group claims that an invoice dated August the 25th, 2003 was entitled Out of Africa Story Royal Party Enquiries. The barrister alleged this invoice was linked to a Daily Mail story from June that year with extensive details about the prince's 21st birthday party. The lawyer says that in seeking to prove his claim, the Duke will rely on an entry found in a spreadsheet belonging to Steve Whittemore, a retired British private investigator convicted in 2004 of breaching the Data Protection Act. He kept 4 colour-coded A4 books detailing his business dealings with journalists, one of which revealed he had been given her mobile number. That's Catherine's mobile number. Okay. The publisher also pointed out that the information relating to the Middleton family, though, was first disclosed in the Operation Motorman books a very long time ago. And they argued that the journalist named in relation to Whittemore's Middleton file was not even involved in the claim. Now, this is where it gets interesting, Lady C. The judge, furious about this. Mr. Justice Nicklin expressing frustration in court that changes were being made so close to the trial. We're now 2 months away from the trial date, and here you are with amendments that could have been put forward years back. Anthony White, KC, for the Mail, told the court that lawyers for Harry and the others were either being, quote, tin-eared or openly defiant. Mr. Sherborne said in court filings that such a nuclear option was unjustified. He argued that the generic case was a critical and fundamental component of the lawsuit, a trial scheduled to begin in January. Now, remember, this is the second time that Harry has involved William, because in March 2023, he revealed that Wills had quietly settled a phone hacking claim for a very large sum against News Group newspapers. That was very much against William's wishes. And by the way, this whole thing is such a farce. It's such a farce by people who are just determined to ride on the coattails of Sherborne. So Sadie Frost and David Furnish were in court. Harry was watching via video link, and listen to this. At one point, he sent a message via the remote system to Baroness Lawrence, asking her to mute her microphone as those logged in could hear her discussing her shopping. Doreen, please mute your phone, he said. So, Lady C, to me, the whole thing is a farce. But of course, the judge is completely furious. Harry's desperate here. Why is this being raised so close to the trial? What do you make of it all?
Well, they're trying to get it in under the wire, number one. And number two, they know if that fails, they will still have hopefully achieved some victory in the court of public opinion, because a lot of this isn't only about what's going on in the court. It's the court is being used as a platform, which Mr. Justice Nicklin has actually previously told them they should not be doing. They use it as a platform to try to further their agenda through the judicial process, having privacy laws. The privacy laws would mean that, for instance, Hugh Grant, who's featured very strongly in all of the actions, would hereafter, if he dropped his trousers and had divine brown blowing in the wind, that couldn't be exposed. You'd have had the late Max Mosley not being able to cavort with prostitutes in Nazi uniforms, notwithstanding the fact that his father was the head of the black shirts in this country, Sir Oswald Mosley. And so you have all of that going on. It's not, they are misusing the court process. And the judge has been fully aware of it and has actually called them out on it. And they're continuing to do it because basically David Sherborne is brilliant. And David Sherborne knows that he can get away with an awful lot. He might not succeed legally, but he is going to succeed in gaining the respect and approbation of his clients. And of course, this is a massive winner for David Sherborne because his brief fees run into the hundreds of thousands. And I don't know if the public is aware of it. What happens is the barrister has a brief fee. He also has fees while he's preparing the brief. But once it gets to court, you have to cough up, say, £250,000 or £500,000 just for the brief fee. Then there are daily refreshers in the tunes of tens of thousands. I mean, David Sherborne stands to make an awful lot of money out of this, whether this case is successful or not. So there's all of that going on as well. But I have to say, as a Jamaican, I know that an awful lot of people are very disquieted about Doreen Lawrence's part in all of this, because Doreen Lawrence owes a great debt of gratitude to Associated Newspapers, because it is the Mail that pushed for her son's killers to be brought to justice. And there is a great deal of perplexity behind the scenes as to how and why Doreen Lawrence has been induced to take part in she's basically not only bitten the hand that's fed her, but that actually got justice for her son, and over absolute trivialities as well.
I think it's just awful. I think it's just awful, actually, and I think that's a very good point to make. But as I say, this is the risk for Harry. This whole thing is going to unravel because, as I say, some of the evidence in court showing that his team were working with Byline Times, in my view, are just a criminal outlet. So this is all going to be very, very bad for the Duke of Delusion. Lady Colin Campbell, thank you so much. And of course, if you do want much more where that came from, twice the length of what you have just watched, then sign up for the uncancelled Royal Aftershow on Substack. www.outspoken.live is the address. Paid monthly, annual members get that full aftershow Monday to Friday, live or on demand with no advertising whatsoever. I'd love you to become part of the community. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.